one of the first words, maybe you have been confronted with that as well, is like Grüß Gott. And when you learn German, of course, you have to translate the words. And you translate this word and you go, Holy God, what? Well, and I thought, I'll never use that, just hello. And at some point, you start just using it as hello. It's nothing more than hello.
Welcome to One Day in Vienna. Our guests today, Mitar Pitzek.
Name Mitar Pitzek. Geburtsland Jugoslawien. Ankunft in Wien 1999. Familienstand, verheiratet, ein Kind. Beruf, Gründer von INNES Institute.
Hello, I'm your host, Lauren Löw, and welcome to this podcast where we're going to be uncovering those memorable anecdotes about this magical city that, let's face it, we all love and hate in moments. The expats featured on this show will be enlightening us as to how they navigated becoming a local in Vienna, often with a splattering of hilarious culture clashes to boot. And to set it all in motion, we have with us today the INNES Institute founder, Mitar Pitzek.
Hi, Lauren. Hello.
How are you?
Very well. Thank you. Wonderful.
So now we're going to be talking about different experiences in Vienna. So why are you in Vienna?
Why am I in Vienna?
What brought you here?
Well, we will probably need 2 bottles of red wine to tell the whole story.
I'm game.
But finally, I can say it was never a plan to come to Vienna. And I was rather one of those who was somehow forced at that time, many years ago, by a war at that time. And I just decided it was just intuition on that day to leave the country where I lived. And on the evening, I was just in Vienna. That was somehow the first place on my way.
So what year was that?
That was 1999. I was working at the university in Belgrade, teaching German linguistics there. After I have been 6 years in Berlin, where I studied, and I went back searching for my home country who disappeared in the 90s. And I thought, well, the home country cannot just disappear like this. And but the house I grew up was there, the coordinates, but the home country was not there. And then I realized the people have been missing. So somehow I realized that I have to leave again, but it was not that easy. Until the war started and my daughter was 6 months at that day. And it was just the intuition. 2 hours after I crossed the border was closed for 3 months. And in the evening, I was in Vienna, and that is, of course, the day I will never forget.
Okay, so that's what this podcast's all about, very special days in Vienna. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a bit about this particular day in Vienna? Sounds like it's a really big one.
Well, it was the day to Vienna, sitting in the small car and wondering why the highway is empty and why is nobody else leaving the country. But I think I was really one of the first who has this intuition that something is going to happen on that day. And on the way, I thought, well, maybe we should go back and nothing is going to happen and so on. And in these thoughts, we reached the Austrian border, and that was the first small, welcome. The Austrian border security started asking me questions, why am I coming and who am I and the child and the whole family and what do I want? And that moment, the radio was very loud behind him. There was a news that the first bomb are falling on Belgrade, and he just looked at me and said, you're welcome. And that was like, okay. And that was, my first experience here. And then...
and how did that day go? So you've arrived in the car, you've got your wife and your daughter who's a tiny baby, you've just left your home country, which is in a war zone, basically. Where did you go? What did you do?
First, I was lucky that I had a part of the family here.
Okay.
So I could stay here for a few days. And, also having my PhD already and everything and experience from the university, very soon it was clear I need to look for a job. And it was very clear soon the only job I was able to find at that moment was McDonald's. So I started working at McDonald's for almost 2 years.
And which one was it?
Well, I was manager of few restaurants and I learned a lot. I'm a big fan of McDonald's.
Yeah.
You can love the concept or not.
Yeah.
And I don't want to promote them, but they are one of our clients today as well. And we
Full
teach
circle.
yes, we teach their staff German as well. But I learned there a lot about business and it took 2 years until the next important day, and that was the day when I got the Austrian citizenship.
Tell us about that.
Well, that was a few years later, about 2 or 3 days later, it was possible at that moment, and I will explain it what happened. First, you get, you apply for it, and at that moment, I knew when you get the approval for it, you will have some time, I think about 6 months, to prove that you could leave your citizenship that you had. That was just a document that you had before.
Die österreichische Staatsbürgerschaft verleiht Personen die volle Mitgliedschaft in der Republik Österreich, inklusive Wahlrecht und Zugang zu öffentlichen Diensten. Sie kann durch Abstammung, Heirat oder Einbürgerung erworben werden. In Wien ist die MA 35, also das Magistrat für Einwanderung und Staatsbürgerschaft, zuständig für Fragen zur Verleihung der österreichischen Staatsbürgerschaft oder zur Erteilung von Aufenthaltstiteln.
So I got the invitation from the authorities to office where it happens, and I thought they will just give me the confirmation that I can get the Austrian citizenship as soon as I prove that I gave up the old one. But very soon I realized they're going to give me the passport now. I'm free.
Doesn't normally happen so quickly in Austria. Oh?
No.
Nothing
but it was
happens that quickly.
No, well, good that you're asking that because something I learned in Austria, it's really very special. You mostly don't get the answer no. They don't say it's not possible. Everything is possible, but it could take a few years or some time or some
So
additional
true.
documents. And as soon as you have that, then we will consider it. They rather don't send you away. So I got my citizenship and I asked, but don't you want to prove that I left the old one? And they said, well, no, Dr. Pitzek, we don't care about your old citizenship. And later I realized, or I heard that for a few months, Austria had a really bad average of educated academics in the European Union. And there was a direction for the European Union to improve that. And the Austrians have sometimes very, very good ideas. And they thought, well, let's just give citizenship to academics. And I was just lucky that it was possible to get it that fast.
So you literally went to the office and they were like, you're an Austrian citizen?
Yes.
Didn't have to answer any questions, nothing?
No, any questions, yes.
And how long had you been living there in Vienna?
Well, for a few years at that time.
So you weren't really,
yes.
you didn't know Vienna very, very well. I mean, when I moved to Vienna, 2 years wasn't so long to be considered a citizen of that
No,
city.
but maybe the benefit was that I was speaking perfect German at that time, probably better than Austrians do, as I just studied German linguistics, and maybe that impressed them, I don't know. But no, it was just this moment for a few weeks that was possible, and I was just lucky.
So actually the German language, so your speciality actually saved you in many ways or guided your journey here, actually.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why I never consider myself as immigrant who escaped from a war, because I was confident somehow with the culture, with the language, but I definitely escaped from the country where I was, but it was much easier for me to integrate and to understand everything here.
So your journey with German, when did that begin, actually? Because if you were already an academic within the German language, like when did you start speaking German? It's not like me, when I first moved here, you spoke the language well before moving.
Well, one day I woke up and I was speaking German suddenly.
Can I get a ticket to your language school? Sounds like a pill.
I cannot not remember what did I eat the day before. No, it was, where I grew up with my grandparents. My surrounding didn't expect that much from me. So it was somehow clear I'm going to become airplane mechanic. And I did this education. And at this time, I have been learning English and Russian in the school, but not a single word of German. And at that time, I was like 16 and one of the first Belgrade break dancers and graffiti sprayers. And in this small gang, we called it Tough Stuff Crew, there was a friend of mine who was surrounded by books. And he forced me to read one book. And it was Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse in Serbian, of course. Great translation. And he saw, it's working. And then he forced me to read the next one. It was Rainer Maria Rilke, the German poet. And I was just like impressed. And
did you just love did you love the...
I love the content. I love the literature. Right. I loved what they are saying. And my friend said, look, why don't you study German linguistics? And, at that moment, he said that to an airplane mechanic. And very next day, I had in my hands a book, German in 100 lessons. Lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and everything else is, just happened. And many people who study German, they start with literature, they fell in love with literature, but then they find the love for the language, because it's really nice language.
So you have a real love for the German language?
Yes, definitely. I love it. And there is a saying in German like, Deutsche Sprache ist schwere Sprache. And somehow I always try to explain to people that, everything is difficult if you have to learn it. And German is a wonderful language to learn it. You have a nice system. You have a nice vocabulary. There are a few exceptions, but until you come there, you already learn it almost. So it's a really nice language to be learned.
And speaking of that, what are your favorite German words? Give me a few that you just love
favorite
or
German
you enjoyed
words,
explaining.
Yes, it has to do something with the time when I arrived as well. One of the first words, maybe you have been confronted with that as well, is like Grüß Gott. Yeah. And when you learn German, you of course you have to translate the words, and you translate this word, and you go, holy God, what?
I thought it meant Grüß Gott at the beginning, not Grüß Gott. I was like, Grüß Gott.
Christbaum. And I thought, I'll never use that, just hello. And at some point you start just using it as hello. It's nothing more than hello. And the second word at that time, today, it's maybe not that relevant because there are so many Germans living in Vienna. But if you use the word Tüte instead of Sackerl, and Sackerl is really not easy to pronounce.
Tüte versus Sackerl. Der Unterschied zwischen Tüte und Sackerl liegt hauptsächlich im regionalen Sprachgebrauch. Das Wort Tüte wird vorwiegend im deutschsprachigen Raum verwendet, während der Ausdruck Sackerl im österreichischen Dialekt üblich ist. Beide Begriffe beschreiben eine Tragetasche.
Tüte is somehow easier a little bit, and they have been irritated. And
you're right. There's lots of Austrianisms that, like Servus, they never taught that in the German books, did they?
Yes.
Instead of Hallo.
No, that are the small words that you need in everyday life. But that's nice that they are there, and maybe that's the moment when you know, now I am the real Viennese, when you start using those words.
Yeah, that's true. The nuances actually make a lot. And it also, I have the feeling that it also connects you much more to the people who are there, because a language isn't just a language, it's all the little nuances that come in between. So I can understand that they are very Viennese. Yes. And what about your favorite place? So you've lived here a long time, that's clear. You've probably got lots and lots of favorite places within the city. But what's somewhere that really is striking for you and you have a lot of very strong memories attached to?
Well, as my daughter finally grew up here, and I'm really, really happy about that. In the first days when we arrived here, I thought I need to move forward to Australia, but finally didn't happen.
There are no kangaroos in Austria.
Definitely. And when I realized that, I decided to stay here. It was really a good decision. And when you have a child growing up here, very soon you get connected to all those places, to kindergarten, to the park where you go, and so on. So that's the easiest way to get connected to the spots and places in Vienna. But a part of that, it's definitely the first district, the whole first district. It's wonderful. I love it. I love it in the summer. I love just walking around. And what I'm always impressed in Vienna about is that when you look through the streets, you somehow see the hills.
Yes.
You see the border of the city, and I love that.
Yes.
I love to feel where is the end and the beginning of the city, you know.
It's very rare that you get to go above the city. I've noticed that recently going to like the Haus des Meeres and stuff.
Yes.
It's so odd to look above the city because you always feel like it's so small, but it's not. It's really big actually in the end.
Yes,
you know?
it's
And then you
big
see
but
these hills
compact, yes.
beyond. It's true. I just want to say, Mitar, thank you so much for sharing some of your really intimate moments in Vienna and your lovely stories. And we look forward to a podcast series with many, many more to come.
Thank you. It was wonderful sharing that with you.
You love Vienna too and want to learn German? INNES Vienna will get you there. Vienna's best language school offers a variety of courses and trainings at different levels, at different times, and at different intensities. All information about INNES Vienna and today's guests can be found in the show notes. And there we also explain all other German words, terms, and Viennese areas from this episode. Thanks for listening. Auf Wiederhören.